Rotator cuff related shoulder pain is one of the most common types of shoulder pain you can get. But while there are a good number of rehab programs out there that focus solely on progressive strength building of the cuff muscles, there aren't as many that focus on what can often also be the problem, which is simply poor activation and recruitment of those muscles. So this video is just going to focus simply on how we can do that, how we can improve our activation and recruitment of the rotator cuff, which can potentially lead to a quick pain reducing effect. So first up, we're going to take a look at what these muscles are, what they do that makes them so important, before moving on to what we can do with them to have a positive outcome. So a quick background on the rotator cuff. It's a group of 4 muscles: supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor and subscapularis. Roughly speaking, these muscles attach from near the top of the humerus bone to the part of the shoulder blade or scapula that is closer to the middle of the body. They mainly contribute to the movements of shoulder abduction and internal and external rotation, but assist any time the shoulder needs to move. This plays a big part in allowing that movement and stabilising it while it does move. They're pretty much underneath the deltoid muscle group, the ones you see when you look at a person's shoulder with the naked eye, and that make up most of the visible shoulder bulk. The rotator cuff's function can become impaired, either quickly from injury or over time through being exposed to a high amount of demand that it just can't keep up with. This can lead to pain in overhead movements, picking up weights, or something as mundane as just keeping your arm raised out in front of you for a few seconds. It is super common for the rotator cuff to be impacted in the majority of shoulder injuries, obviously not all of them. Actually, experts now usually explain that any dysfunction of the shoulder blade, known as scapular dyskinesis, is secondary most times to rotator cuff inhibition. What this means is that because the scapula and the humerus move together, the rotator cuff allows them to do their jobs better. Now I think it's great that generally people are starting to understand better that rotator cuff strength is important. But what we're not quite there on yet is that knowing without activating the muscles well, that strength is actually really hard to achieve. There's an expert in the shoulder field named Joe Gibson who used the following metaphor to describe rotator cuff strength and activation. If you're trying to push something heavy along a block of ice but you haven't got any grip on your shoes, you're going to be trying to push, but you're just going to be slipping. What rotator cuff activation does is actually gives you the grip on your shoes to actually use that strength you have. Now, yes, I know that's quite a bizarre metaphor, but I think it illustrates the situation really well. As mentioned at the start of the video, for some people, all they need is to be working on that activation to reduce their pain or improve their shoulder function without needing months of strengthening. I've often been surprised by just how well some people do improve from taking up just a few of the exercises that we're about to go through. So let's take a look at how we can get that all-important muscle activation. So the basic concepts to bear in mind here are using what is called a closed kinetic chain exercise with light weight or resistance can be enough to switch on the rotator cuff. Closed kinetic chain means where the furthest away point of your body being used in the exercise is fixed or in contact with something. For example, for legs this would be a squat rather than a leg raise. For shoulder it could be a press up rather than an overhead weighted press. We're also trying to apply the following to exercise where possible: a gripped fist, compression by having your external rotation movement resisted or having your elbow bent to 90 degrees. Now let's go through some exercise examples of how to apply these. We'll start with the easiest exercise, which is particularly good if your shoulder is highly irritable. This is classed as an isometric exercise, which means the muscle is working but without moving through range, which can be great for avoiding a painful range of movement. The shoulder external rotation movement is resisted by the wall, so we're isolating a pure rotator cuff movement here. This exercise uses the closed kinetic chain principle. Press off from your hands against the wall at a slight decline angle. The further your feet are from the wall, the harder it will be. This can be progressed this way, and at a later time can be moved down into a floor press up. Adding the band pulled tight around the forearms will add resisted shoulder external rotation, which is an excellent combo for cuff activation. It is normal for the shoulder to feel sore after working it hard this way. Pull the band tight at the forearms as you bring the arms up to the edge of the range of motion you can reach. You'll notice that the closed kinetic chain principle isn't being used. It doesn't have to be used every time, and I've found this is a really effective exercise, which is why I'm including it. But I definitely recommend starting with some closed kinetic chain for sure. The final exercise adds resisted shoulder external rotation to a chest press. This can be done with dumbbells as shown, or with a barbell, which you traditionally see people using for a bench press. This also doesn't use closed kinetic chain, but adding resisted external rotation can switch the cuff on to assist this movement so much better. I've seen regular gym goers find their bench press exercise become so much more comfortable after incorporating this. So the bottom line here, guys, in some situations better activation of the rotator cuff is all that's needed to remove someone's shoulder pain. But even where a longer strengthening program is required, encouraging activation is still usually an essential starting point. Thanks for watching.